Welcome back to the Jag Bros. I'm one of your hosts, JT Raymond. We are all hoping for a Jaguars bounce back victory this Sunday at home with Cleveland coming into town. Cleveland, a team that really struggled in week one with a blowout loss at home to the Cowboys. Wow, I feel a little bit more confident about this game than I did going on the road to Miami in September. How are you guys feeling?
This is the definition of a must win. I did some digging and looked into some analytics. So, of the 14 playoff teams that made the playoffs last year, they went 10-4 in week one. And of those four teams that lost week one, three of them won in week two. The only team to lose both and still make the playoffs were the Texans, who destroyed us in week 13. Last year, 13 out of 14 playoff teams started either 2-0 or 1-1. And so this is a must win for the Jags and the Browns, but obviously this is the Jag Bros. So this is a must win for the Jags because after this, your next 2 weeks are at Buffalo, at Houston, two potential playoff teams on the road.
Yeah, this is a game that they have to win because it is very easily that the season could slip away that quickly if we come out with another loss. Worried about this game until I watched them play against the Cowboys. A lot more confident now because they seem worse than they did last year, where that defense looked unbeatable and then their offense was actually moving fairly well. But now with Deshaun Watson back, it looks worse than ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to the team that we saw in December when we lost to Cleveland in Cleveland 31-27. Obviously, Joe Flacco was the quarterback then, and Deshaun Watson is quarterback for them, at least as of right now, for the game on Sunday. We're going to break down both our offense versus their defense and then flip that and give us some score predictions going into the game. But yeah, so let's dive into this. Cleveland is just coming off a 33-17 loss at home to Dallas, and quite frankly, it wasn't even that close. Dallas pretty much put the game on ice midway through the third quarter. You could argue midway through the second quarter at how that game was unfolding. Also, it's interesting of note for the Browns, they lost David Njoku for at least a few weeks. There's also question marks on Jerry Jeudy's health. Their offense, which was not very, very strong to begin with, already has even more question marks coming into this game. This feels like a must-win game for them. They're very well coached with Kevin Stefanski on their head coach, who is pretty well respected from an offensive mind. And then Jim Schwartz, who came on their staff to be their defensive coordinator last year. Most of the defensive side of the ball is all returning. They made very few free agency moves on either side of the ball. So which side of the ball do you guys want to start on?
Well, let's talk about our offense versus their defense. And on paper, this is a matchup where it feels flipped. You last week against Miami, you went up against the number one offense from 2023. This week, you're going up against last year's top defense from 2023. And yes, they have a lot of talent there. But if you think back to that game in December, Jaguars versus the Browns, it was a battle of the tight ends. Evan Ingram went off 11 catches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Njoku, who will probably not play, had 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Trevor threw 50 passes, where he only threw just over 20 passes this last week. So I think this is going to be a bounce back game for the Jaguars passing attack, whoever that looks like from a receiving standpoint, hopefully for Kirk, Ingram, and hopefully still big games from BTJ and for Gabe Davis. But I look for Trevor to throw it, maybe not 50 times, but for Trevor to throw the ball a lot here.
This was a weird game last year. For those that remember on the defensive side of the ball, like it was kind of a rainy game. I look at some of the stat lines. Calvin Ridley was targeted 13 times and only had 4 catches. To your point, Jack, Evan Ingram was a monster with 11 catches, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Christian Kirk was out this game, and it was a game, in some respects, is one of Trevor's better games since he had 3 touchdowns and 257, but he also had the 3 picks. And we also lost a fumble to Parker Washington. So we had 4 turnovers between the offense and special teams for that game, which set up Cleveland in a game that I don't think Cleveland really ever trailed. And we were constantly playing come from behind.
Yeah, this defense is very good at stopping the run. It's going to be a passing offense that we're going to have to do. They have an incredible defensive line with maybe one of the best NFL defensive players to ever live right now. Myles Garrett killing it. He still looks great, even in the loss against the Cowboys. So we're going to need to throw the ball, and I think we're going to have to throw it pretty quickly because our offensive line slightly better than it was last year, but as we saw last week, it's still not great. The tackles had terrible games. Anton Harrison and Cam Robinson kind of letting in a lot of pressure. So I see, as you said, a lot of quick passes to Evan Ingram. And then also Christian Kirk's going to need a bounce back game, someone in the slot, running quick posts, quick slants, getting the ball out quickly is going to be the important key in this game.
Their 7 is very solid. Don't let the Dallas Cowboys game was very lopsided and they performed well, but a lot of that was because the Cleveland Browns offense was so anemic for most of that game, as well as they had a lot of turnovers. But realistically, they didn't do a lot on the ground, which they had a big lead and they couldn't run. They did shut down Dak early, where it felt like he could have been able to do well. It feels like a team similar to last year that it's going to be on Trevor to be able to A, protect the ball, and B, continue to move the chains, something that we could not do, especially in the second half against the Dolphins. This is not a game that I think Etienne or Tank Bigsby will have a great game, which I expect to see both at. And so this is going to be one where it's going to be on Trevor. I'd like to see BTJ take some of their outside corners downfield. I'd like to see us be able to get catches in the middle of the field from Kirk and from Ingram to keep those sticks moving.
Forget about Gabe Davis, who had the most yardage.
And I think we'll probably get another similar kind of 4 for 50 from Gabe Davis.
Well, this is where it actually benefits the Jaguars a little bit to not have a true wide receiver one, because the Browns have a true CB1 in Denzel Ward, a top 10 corner of the league. Greg Newsome, the second, is also pretty good, but it's kind of hard for a defense to scheme the Jaguars offense because it's like, who do you put your top corner on? Brian Thomas is maybe the most dangerous, but also a rookie in his second game. Gabe Davis can go up and get the ball, have huge games where he goes off for 100, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he can also have 0 catch games. And then you have Christian Kirk, who only had 1 catch in this last week. So I think Trevor in this offense needs to spread the ball a lot. And I also, JT said, don't look for Tank or Etienne to have a big game on the ground, but I like Etienne to have a big game catching the ball and throwing short passes to hopefully open up the run game. So look for Etienne to have 4 or 5, maybe even 6 catches in this game.
One final thought, too. If you look at what they did last year, the Browns ran man-to-man defense at the 3rd highest rate of anybody. So look, if you're going man-to-man, can BTJ beat somebody deep? We saw him do that to a slightly injured Jalen Ramsey. Can he do that against an elite?
Slightly injured?
Well, Jalen Ramsey did not play all the snaps. I mean, like they made a huge deal about that pretty much the entire game.
And he was not slightly injured. He just wanted to do that so he could get his big contract deal. Same thing that he did against the Jaguars.
He was slightly injured after BTJ kept cooking him in that first half.
Potentially. So, I mean, look, this will get your chance. He to your point, Jack, I think you probably will be matched up on their better corner, and they're going to run a lot of man. So what does Jacksonville do to do that? Will we take advantage of some of those things, or do we trust Christian Kirk to potentially beat their 3rd best corner over the middle, or Ingram, who had a great game last year? So those are some of the things that I would say, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
We do need to take shots deep, but we also need, as I said earlier, these shorter passes to make 3rd down more manageable. We were 2 out of 10 on 3rd down, and a lot of them were long 3rd downs. We need to be able to move the ball on 1st and 2nd down to make 3rd down more manageable. So I really want to see, as I said, quicker passes, and as I like what Jack said, get Etienne involved, just find ways to get 4, 5, 6 yards and make that 3rd down 3rd and 4 instead of 3rd and 8.
All right, let's take us to the defensive side of the ball now. And boy, as frustrating at times as some of the teams we saw play offense, the Browns were near the worst from an offensive perspective. In fact, if you look at Deshaun Watson's numbers, he was terrible, really, really bad. He was 24 of 45 for 169. He can run the ball though. He still had almost 40 yards of rushing against the Cowboys. But one of the stats to me that was most interesting from last week is the A dot. So it's the average depth of target. So that the ball passes through the air before it's being caught. So, for example, if you're throwing a screen pass, that would be a 0 yards because it's not downfield. If you're throwing a 73-yard bomb where 73 of those yards are in the air, similar to what Anthony Richardson did against the Texans week 1, then that's 73 yards a depth of target. Do you want to have a guess on what the average depth of target was for Deshaun Watson?
I don't know, 4 yards maybe.
4 yards is actually pretty average, I would say. Trevor was right around 4.1 in game 1. He was at 1.9, meaning
Wow.
he is essentially playing all of his attempts are right around the line of scrimmage. It makes sense why Njoku had a lot of targets. It makes sense why Ford had some targets as well. So when you actually watch Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, when you saw Bo Nix, when you saw some of the Kyler Murray, all these guys that are also all the way at the bottom of the league right now, all of them had at least 2.5 to 2 yards, air yards, depth of target. Deshaun Watson was the worst. He also took 6 sacks. And according to the fantasypros.com, the Cowboys actually never blitzed once. So not only did they not blitz, but he actually still got 6 sacks. This feels like a game that is designed for Jacksonville to have an amazing bounce back. Not that they had a bad performance in week 1, but this feels like a game they should be able to feast at home in week 2.
Yeah, you mentioned the sacks. That was because both of their offensive tackles were out, and they still may be out. Jack Conklin and Jarek Wills Jr. are both questionable right now, still for the game. So hopefully they're both still out, and so they have to use backup offensive tackles. And then you also mentioned Njoku. Well, he is out for the game against the Jaguars as well. Steven Stefanski came out today and said that he will not be playing. So it's set up for our defense to feast really against this offense. Deshaun Watson is dealing with another sexual assault allegation that was just filed this week in Texas. There's going to be a lot of turmoil over that, and this offense that they have is really, really put out, not in it, and hurt.
The Browns are a hot mess. And I agree with both y'all. If we play like we did week 1 against the best offense, holding the Dolphins to 7 points for 2.5, almost 3 quarters, I mean, we could pitch a shutout in this game. That's how bad the Browns offense is. They were 2 for 15 on third downs. They missed 2 fourth downs against the Cowboys. Yes, they put up 17 points, but that was only because they only started scoring once they were down 27-3 and a lot of garbage yards and garbage points. So look for the Jags defense to be hyper aggressive. They didn't have any turnovers against the Dolphins. So I like Josh Hines-Allen to have a big game. He's not going up against an all-star offensive tackle like he did against the Dolphins. And the cornerbacks are going to be important because it was just announced today on Wednesday that Tyson Campbell is most likely going to be out on Sunday. There's even potential, Doug said, of him going to IR because of that hamstring injury. So it's actually not a bad game to be missing some of your top corners, but the Jags will need probably Buster Brown or Jarian Jones or DeAndre Prince to step up. It's CB2, CB3 in this game.
Their wide receiving core is not very good. They were in the sweepstakes trying to get Ayuk earlier this offseason because they were not confident in that wide receiver room. Their only real threat is an aging Amari Cooper. Jerry Jeudy, who they were able to get, is also banged up and most likely will not play. And so you're looking at Elijah Moore, who's been a bust everywhere he's been, and Cedric Tillman, who I actually liked at Tennessee, but he's not translated well into the NFL right now. So none of these guys really scare you outside of Cooper. And while Darby, I thought, did an admirable job and certainly was beat by Tyreek a few times, Amari Cooper is not Tyreek Hill. And
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure Darby's going to be able to lock him down. It's going to be really interesting to me. I think I said this last podcast. Muma only saw 15% of snaps. It makes sense. You have a very quick Miami team where you don't want to have 3 linebackers on the field most of the time. Here's a situation where I would not be surprised if we saw Muma play more frequently, if we see a lot more linebackers out there, because ultimately the Browns are going to want to establish the run. They saw last week that Jacksonville gave up a lot of yards to the running back out of the backfield. Jerome Ford was targeted 7 times. Pierre Strong was targeted 3 times through the air. That's certainly going to be something that's in their game plan. Outside of that, you just have to be able to get off the field on third down, because this is not an offense that's going to gash you or big play you like the Dolphins did.
Yeah, this is a great matchup for our defense to really show up and show out. Really excited to see them go up against this middling Browns offense. So let's go ahead and get to the keys of victory and how confident you are, and whether it's a Jag W or a horrible Jag loss. Let's hear what JT's got to say.
1 second, Joey. Before we go there, one thing to call out too, their special teams was very questionable that first game. They actually gave up a touchdown, a punt return touchdown to Dallas last week, and a huge 34-yard return on the kickoff to Dallas as well. Dallas had a really nice, averaging almost 20 yards per punt return. This is a game where I would like to see Parker Washington or Duvernay have a chance to continue to win a field position game, potentially in a low-scoring game, with special teams being a slight edge for the Jaguars as well.
Got it. Special teams could definitely become a keys to victory for this, with Duvernay being a great special teams guy, and then Parker Washington normally is a very good special teams guy, and he was able to get his fumble back, which was really scary, but he knew his job was on the line, and he was able to swallow that back up. But let's go ahead and get into our offensive defense keys to victory.
So offensively, I mentioned this a little bit, but I think this just needs to be a big bounce back game for the Jags passing attack. Not that Trevor was bad, and maybe I was a little too hangry last episode and went after Trevor too hard, but I still think he needs to take a step up and play at an elite level, and he gets a chance against a very good Browns defense. And we've already talked about the Jags are probably going to air the ball out more than run the ball. So specifically, I love Trevor to go over 250 yards in either Kirk or Ingram, potentially both, but one of them needs to have a really, really strong bounce back game and have at least over 100 yards receiving. And then I feel pretty confident for the Jags offense.
You talk about Ingram and Kirk. They are my also keys to victory for the offense. They need to bounce back big time, and I believe one of them has to be the key most receiving wide receiver on this team this game, because as I said, I want quicker passes. I'm scared of their Browns defensive line. I'm scared of Myles Garrett. I don't think our offensive line can hold them that long, so we're going to need to get rid of the ball quickly, and I really hope that it's Kirk. But I will also take Ingram as well. So those two have to bounce back big time.
To me, the most interesting match on this side of the ball will be Harrison, our right tackle, versus most likely Garrett. Sure, they'll line him up over there. How does he do? He did play terribly week 1. He gave up 4 pressures as well as a couple of the sacks that were on Trevor. That's going to be an interesting thing. But look, I think there's a lot of ways Jacksonville wins this game. So like, how do we potentially lose this game from the offensive side of the ball? I think you just have to limit the turnovers. We had 4 last year against the Browns in December. I think you can turn over the ball twice, but no more. So 2 or less turnovers for the Jaguars. I think if they do that, they will win, even if their offense looks anemic, even if we don't move the ball as effectively as we want, even if we can't run the ball. I think as long as we don't turn over the ball, we find a way to win.
Add one more keys to victory for the offense, and that is not taking our foot off the pedal. I see us going up pretty quickly with a lead, and then I don't want us to do exactly what we did against the Dolphins, kind of slow down, try to milk the clock, act like the game is kind of in the bag, because as we saw, 1 or 2 turnovers can absolutely turn the game, and then all of a sudden we're back on our heels. I want to see us full force, constantly foot on the pedal, and not slowing down at all.
Speaking of foot on the pedal, that is my key for the defense. Play hyper aggressive. This is not a game where I'm super scared of the Browns beating you over the top. beating you with any long balls. Amari Cooper at this point is 30 years old, plays really more like he's 33, 34 years old. And so play aggressive, have at least 5 big plays, whether that's a sack, a turnover, or a stop on 4th down, because the Browns lead the league in giving up 6 sacks last week. They turned the ball over twice on 4th down and 2 additional turnovers. So 10 big plays for the Cowboys defense against the Browns last week. I think we need at least just 5, and I feel very confident for the Jags to win.
All right. I like it, Jack. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. For me, it's the stat that you could make an argument killed us against the Dolphins, and it's certainly going to be the game plan that the Browns are going to deploy, and that's our 3rd down percentage on defense. We gave up 8 of 16. Nielsen was a top 5 on 3rd down and 4th down coach last year, including the red zone. He was also top 5 red zone. So these high leverage downs he was great at. They are going to want to play 3 yards, stay ahead of schedule, 3 yards, stay ahead of schedule, and put yourself in 3rd and short to continue to move the chains. If they are not, if they are constantly in a 3rd and long situation, I feel pretty confident. So you can already hear a little bit in my voice. Like, I'm pretty confident in the Jaguars. There's a lot of ways to win. How Jacksonville could lose, I feel like, is if they go above 40% on 3rd down conversion. That is the Browns. If the Browns convert it better than 40% on 3rd down conversion, they could play keep away, a couple turnovers, and we got ourselves a pretty competitive game.
My key is the defensive line and linebackers are going to have to come up quickly. As JT's pointed out, the Browns like to throw it on the sideline or get the ball out on short passes, and we need to be able to get to the ball and tackle quickly and get them down on the first tackle. Missing tackles and letting them break for big plays is going to be the downfall of us if we allow that. If we are like we started off against the Dolphins, running to the ball, hitting hard, and making sure that we finish the tackle.
Yeah, so those are our keys to victory for the Jags offense and defense. Make sure you share your keys. How do the Jaguars win? Whether you're watching this on or listening to this on YouTube, just go ahead and share those in the comments, or we'll post these on X as well. Something we introduced this season, we're calling the Jag Bros Bets, just for fun. Reminder, Joey, you are the leader in the clubhouse with 500 points. JT in second with 100. I am trailing with negative 200 points. And so we're going to do these lightning round style, just some fun matchups, some fun props. But a big one, of course, is Tank went off in week 1. So who gets more rushing yards, Tank or Etienne? And then are you putting 100 points or 200 points on that?
Ooh, spicy.
I think that this is a little bit of a bounce back game for Etienne. I think that he is pissed off that the game kind of fell on him and his fumble. I think he's going to make at least 1 or 2 huge plays for us. I have Etienne locking in 200 points.
Joey's already off the Tank Bigsby
bandwagon. I'm not saying Tank's going to do bad.
You.
I'm just saying that Etienne's going to have a bounce back game.
I'm just messing with you.
I'll take Etienne. He's going to be the starter. He's just going to be out there more often. Obviously, Tank doubled his total last week, but I'll take 100 points for Etienne.
Well, I made that 3 for 3. I take Etienne as well. Coach Peterson still has a ton of confidence in him. He likes him to still get a ton of carries. JT, you pointed this out last episode. Etienne had 0 fumbles last year, so give me Etienne for 100. All right, well, now let's look at the passing attack. Trevor Lawrence last year against the Browns threw for 257 yards. Does Trevor Lawrence go for over or under 250 yards in this game?
I got Trevor over 250. I think that the offense realized that they didn't throw the ball enough last game, and that was what was working. I think we'll go to Trevor more often. The run's going to be hard to have against the Browns with that defensive line, so I do have Trevor Lawrence over 250, locking in 200 points.
I'll take under for 100 points. Trevor just doesn't consistently throw for over 250. Even when he has a nice game, it feels like it's 220. There's a lot of ways where Jacksonville's winning big and just running the ball or just sitting on it. I don't trust us to keep the foot down on the pedal, as Joey was talking about earlier. So give me the under 250.
I'm riding the Joey wave here. Give me over 250 yards for 200 points for Trevor. And then one more question on offense. Who from the Jaguars gets the most receiving yards in this game?
I'll take Kirk. I think we saw week 1 of last year where Kirk had 1 catch for 9 yards and then come out against Kansas City at home and throw up 11 for 110. I think they're going to specifically target him and I think he's probably going to be matched up with their third best cornerback for the most part. So I think Kirk is going to do that, and I'll take 100 points for that as well.
I think it could be Kirk, but I'm going to head and roll with a different person. I think Evan Ingram has another monster game against the Browns, and I'm going to lock in with 100 points.
Man, Joey, you're looking at my notes over here. I'm going to go Ingram as well. And just to try to get some more points, I'm going to double down for 200 points on Ingram. Have another big game against the Browns. Okay, defensively now, who gets more sacks? Trayvon had that awesome week 1 with 2 sacks. Does he get more sacks in this game, or does Josh Hines-Allen get more sacks?
I am definitely going Josh Hines-Allen with the 2 offensive tackles most likely out for this game. It's going to be more of an outside edge, and I think that's where Josh Hines-Allen kind of beats Trayvon just a little bit, is that Trayvon's a little better at the power and pushing through. I think this is going to be a little more finesse and speed. And I think also Josh Hines-Allen knows that he didn't play as well as he could have against the Dolphins. I think he wants to get on the board with Trayvon with 2, and Eric Armstead already has 1. He's behind, so he is going to go off this game. I got 200 points on Josh Hines-Allen.
I also take 200 for Josh Hines-Allen for the exact same reasons.
Well, keep it rolling. 3 for 3. Josh Hines-Allen, 200 points. Final question. This is going to be a big one. In terms of turnovers, do the Jaguars win the turnover battle by over or under 1.5 turnovers?
So meaning if we turn over the ball once, we have to force 3 turnovers.
Correct.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the under. Not because I don't think not because I don't think our defense can force turnovers against the Cleveland, because they're not good, but I just don't think the style that Nielsen plays lends itself to a lot of turnovers. And I'm always concerned about Trevor in our offense turning over the ball. So I'll take the under, and I'm pretty confident in that one. I'll take that for 200 points.
I'm with you, JT. Same reasons, but I'm going to go with 100 just because I know this defense wants turnovers, but the way that Ryan Nielsen plays, it just seems that he's more of a shutdown defense than a turnover defense. So I have us under as well.
I'm going to go 100 as well, but give me the over because the Browns offense is that bad. And it just feels like free fall. And I see us getting 2, 3, maybe even 4 turnovers in this game on defense.
Time for score predictions. We were all 0 for 1 picking Jaguars victories last week. I have a hunch that we're going to be leaning that way again for this week. But Joey, start us off. Where are you at? How confident are you in a Jaguars victory? And what's your score prediction?
I am very confident in a victory. First home game. Everyone's kind of pissed off about last game. Bounce back game for a lot of our veterans. And I have it as a 9 out of 10 victory confidence meter. And I think that it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think that it's going to be 20-3, a Jags victory, and it is going to be well earned, but it's going to be hard to get every point that we get.
I'll one up you 9. I'll say 10. This is a game you have to win. Jack already mentioned the rest schedule, 2 away games against playoff teams coming up. The Browns were a playoff team last year, but they look like a potential basement dweller this year with all the controversy. Yes, we're going to be getting their best punch, but we've already seen the Vegas line move from a pick'em to Jaguars -3.5. That's a massive move early in the week for a NFL spread. So give me the Jaguars. I think there's a lot of ways that we win. I think there's a lot of ways where we could potentially blow them out. That's kind of where I want to go with it. I'll do it. I'll take Jaguars 27, Browns 9, and a big Jaguars victory at home.
Well, in the last 7 games, the Jaguars have 1 victory. Do y'all remember what victory that was in the last 7 games?
The Panthers.
Yes, it was a home game against the Panthers where we blew them out. And so This is a game that feels a lot like this in the sense of everything is still not going the Jaguars' direction, but this is a game that you definitely have all the momentum. The defense should feast in this game. I have the Browns with 9 points as well, JT. I still don't love our offense. I think we're still figuring some things out. Hopefully we can get it going later in the season, but give me the Jaguars 20 to the Browns 9 and give me a confidence meter of a 7 because I'm still not 100% bought in on this team. And I'm just going to say, if we lose this game, I'm going to embrace my full villain arc and just start picking the Jaguars to lose game after game after game because you need to win this game on Sunday in Jacksonville.
If we lose this game, this is going to be one of those JT meltdowns next week because this would be an all-time loss and not an all-time loss. This would just be so bad. I'm already working myself up. We haven't even lost the game.
That's how you know you're a lifelong Jags fan. You're like, everyone says this is the game that we should win, and we still have in the back of the mind, what if the Jags just lay a giant egg?
It's always possible, but I'm not even going to think about that because I'm confident in this Jaguars. This team is so good. Like, you saw how good we played against the Dolphins for 3 quarters. So we just need to extend that to 4 quarters, and we got this game in the bag.
Well, we will find out on Sunday, so make sure that you are following us on whatever podcast platform or YouTube that you're listening to. We love to engage with you all on Instagram, Twitter, wherever. We'll post those links in the description. And make sure you drop a 5-star rating and review on Apple. We saw that we had one new one on Spotify. They don't let us do reviews there, but if you will give us a 5-star review, we'll always give you a personal shout out. So make sure to do that as well. But above all, make sure to be tuning in to the Jags game in Duval, in the bank. Time to lock down the bank. Time to beat the Browns and beat them big. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Let's win it. Duval.